This movie is mostly for you that want to be lightly scared. Having recently seen the brutal Terrifier 2, this one is a horror movie on a very easy mode, because it simply feels like a drama movie with some horror elements. Sure, it might be shocking to see Pearl kills the goose and feeds it to the alligator, when she almost rolls her father's wheelchair into the swamp, when she takes down the film producer with a fork, or when she accidentally kills her mother with the help of flames. Nevertheless, most of the time, the movie is very boring, and you don't have the same intensity and the same quality in those scary scenes. Although the mentioned scenes might be scary to some of you, they are highly downplayed when compared to Terrifier 2, which kinda set a new standard in horror movies the way I see it. The number one issue with this movie is that most of the time you are highly bored. Most of the time it is the mood that is supposed to be scary, and I don't really like movies like that. I want to have a faster pacing and more of the scary scenes, otherwise I'm just not that entertained. Pearl might be an interesting character, but I don't feel she's enough to drive this movie as a character alone. It is supposed to be much more about the emotion, and that's the reason she has turned to killing. Because of feeling like a failure, more the classic story of a psychopathic killer, and perhaps not a classic horror story. That can of course be entertaining, but the movie focuses much more on her emotional travel, which revolves around her being stuck on this farm. In the second part of the movie, more precisely in the last hour, she does what she always had been thinking about when killing her mother and her father. Of course, it is unclear if she actually meant that. But, anyways, that was what she ended up with after lashing out her revenge for being stuck on the farm. This movie also follows the same pattern as the X movie. Of course, this one is a prequel, so that is only natural. When watching that movie, I was perhaps even more bored, and this movie might be a little better when thinking of the pacing, but it still takes a lot of time before something interesting happens. If you have seen Terrified 2 like me, don't expect to be terrified in the same way, because it is one of those classic horror movies where a lot of people say they are a lot scarier than they actually are. Most of the time, that has to be down to the mood in the movie. But personally, for me, as I stated earlier, I just don't need a mood, I need actual scary scenes also. Of course, there are some of those, but there are not enough of them, and they are not scary either. Of course, you may like this movie better than me, if you are one of those people that like the mood kind of horror movies better, but for me, this one will only be a 4 out of 10, and yeah, I was not scared at all.